Hey everyone, welcome back to Life and Language podcast channel. I'm Ben. I've actually been thinking about this topic all week. It genuinely kept me up one night, which doesn't happen very often. So I hope you're ready for something a little mind-bending today, because we're talking about memory. Specifically, we're asking, can your brain trick you into remembering something that never actually happened? I want to start with a question, and this one is actually based on real psychological research. Studies show that a surprising percentage of people can be made to remember an event from their childhood that never took place, if that event is described to them in detail by someone they trust. So here's the question. Roughly what percentage of people in these studies developed a full false memory of something that never happened? Is it A, around 5%, B, around 30%, or C, around 75%? So, is it A, B, or C? I'm going to say B, around 30%. It sounds high enough to be shocking but still believable. Let's see if I'm right later. Okay, so let's get into it. Memory. Most of us treat it like a video recording. You live through something, your brain saves it, and whenever you want to remember it, you just press play. That's a comforting idea, right? The problem is, it's completely wrong. Memory doesn't work like a video camera at all. It's actually much more like a story that your brain reconstructs. That word reconstruct means to build something again from pieces every single time you try to remember it. And every time you rebuild that story, tiny details can change, things get added, things get removed. And sometimes, whole events that never happened get written in. This is what psychologists call a false memory. A false memory is a recollection. And recollection just means the act of remembering something, a recollection of an event that either didn't happen the way you remember it, or didn't happen at all. What makes this really unsettling is that false memories don't feel fake. They feel completely real. When someone has a false memory, they experience it with emotion, with detail, sometimes even with a sense of smell or sound. There's no internal alarm that goes off saying, wait, this isn't real. The brain just accepts it as truth. One of the most important ideas here is something called the misinformation effect. The misinformation effect is what happens when information you receive after an event, maybe something a friend tells you, or a news report you watch, actually changes the memory of the event itself. So imagine you were in a minor car accident. Afterwards, a friend says to you, that red car really came out of nowhere, didn't it? But actually, the car was blue. Later, when you try to remember the accident, you might genuinely recall a red car. Your friend's words have quietly rewritten your memory. That's the misinformation effect in action, and it's both fascinating and a little frightening. I asked a few people what they think about the idea of false memories. Here's what they told me. Honestly, I didn't believe it at first. I thought, no, I know what I remember. But then my sister showed me photos from a family holiday I was absolutely certain I attended, and I'm not in a single one of them. I have clear memories of being there. It shook me. I work in a school, and I've noticed that kids sometimes mix up things that happened to them personally with stories they've been told about themselves. A child will describe a vivid memory, and you can tell it's actually something a parent described to them. It happens more than people think. For me, the scary part isn't forgetting. It's remembering wrong and not knowing. Like, what else am I wrong about? It makes you question yourself. So what actually causes false memories to form? Researchers have identified a few key factors. One is suggestion. That's when someone in a position of authority or trust plants the idea of an event in your mind. The classic experiment in this field was done by psychologist Elizabeth Loftus, who showed that by simply asking leading questions that already assume a particular answer, she could change what people remembered seeing in a video clip. Another major cause is imagination. When we imagine an event vividly and repeatedly, the brain can begin to treat that imagined experience as a real one. This is called imagination inflation, and inflation here means an artificial increase in something. Because the more you imagine something, the more inflated or boosted your confidence becomes that it actually happened. There's also the role of emotional state. When we are stressed, tired, or under pressure, we become more susceptible. Susceptible means more likely to be affected by something, more susceptible to suggestion and memory errors. This has huge implications for areas like eyewitness testimony. which is the account a witness gives in a court of law based on what they personally saw or heard. Research consistently shows that eyewitness testimony, despite being treated as highly reliable in legal systems around the world, is actually one of the leading causes of wrongful convictions, cases where innocent people were found guilty, precisely because of how easily human memory can be distorted. The good news, if there is any, is that researchers are working hard to develop better interviewing techniques for witnesses. And legal systems in some countries are beginning to account for the limitations of human memory, understanding that memory is fallible, and fallible simply means capable of being wrong or making errors, is actually the first step toward building fairer systems that don't over-rely on it. Before we wrap up, let's quickly go through today's words so they really stick. First, reconstruct. After the fire, investigators tried to reconstruct the sequence of events from the available evidence. Next, recollection. Her recollection of the meeting was very different from everyone else's. Then, the misinformation effect. The misinformation effect explains why two people who witnessed the same event can later describe it in completely different ways. Moving on, suggestion. The therapist was careful not to use suggestion when asking the patient about their past. Then, imagination inflation. Through imagination inflation, simply picturing an event over and over can make you believe it really occurred. After that, susceptible. People who haven't slept enough are much more susceptible to believing false information. And finally, eyewitness testimony. The lawyer questioned whether the eyewitness testimony was reliable given how chaotic the scene had been. Okay, and now, the moment of truth. The answer to our quiz question. What percentage of people in false memory studies developed a full false memory of something that never happened? The answer is B, around 30%. And I got it right. Honestly, I'm a little surprised at myself. But here's what really matters. 30% is not a small number. That means roughly 1 in 3 people, when given the right conditions, can be led to genuinely remember something that simply did not occur. Think about that the next time you're absolutely certain about something you remember. The big takeaway from today is this: memory isn't a recording, it's a reconstruction. And every reconstruction is an opportunity for small errors to creep in. That doesn't mean you can't trust yourself at all, but it does mean holding your memories a little more lightly, and staying curious about what really happened versus what your brain has decided happened. Thanks so much for spending this time with me today. If this topic surprised you, or maybe made you question a memory of your own, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Comment practice and I'll reply with today's phrase. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.